A lot of veterans and service members don't know they can have more than one VA loan at a time. They often get confused by the VA's occupancy requirement, thinking it means they can only use their VA loan benefit once. But that's not actually how it works. So if you're hoping to keep your current home with a VA loan on it, but also want to purchase a second home using a VA loan, then this video is for you. Now, as you can tell, it's Friday. I always wear red on Friday. We challenge and invite you, our watchers, our followers, our fans, also do the same thing. You can be loud and proud and we can send you some shirts. We have a video about that on our YouTube channel. Or you can just wear a simple red shirt. No one needs to know but you that you support the men and women of the military. That's what we do. This is an outward expression of our love and admiration for our military. Okay, so wear red every single Friday. Click the red button down below that says follow, like, subscribe. You get what we're trying to do. We want you to become smarter and more educated on all things VA loans, and that's why we do this for you every single week on Friday. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about what the VA's occupancy rules actually say, okay? Important, we're talking about occupancy rules. That's a very big rule when we talk about VA loans. It simply states that any home purchased with a VA mortgage you must intend to have that be your primary residence. Now, I'm not trying to stretch the rule of intention here. You have to be buying a home that you're going to go move into. You're going to take all of your personal stuff and you're going to live there. Now, in order to fulfill this rule, the home must be occupied by either the veteran, him or herself, their spouse, or a dependent child, if that veteran has children, within 60 days of closing on the mortgage. Okay? Though there are a few exceptions to this 60-day rule, they depend very highly upon very specific situations. Now, finally, the occupancy rule also states that, generally speaking, the home must be within reasonable proximity to the veteran's place of employment. It does not state any sort of minimum time frame the veteran must stay there. Okay, now again, I want to be clear here. If you're going to move into a home and you intend for it to be your primary residence, where you're going to live, and then you move 2 days later, you may come under some pretty intense scrutiny. Life is changing all the time. I'm not here to judge whether or not that was intentional, but you really, again, I have to make sure you understand. Don't abuse these loan rights and benefits. Only use your VA mortgage if you intend to live in that house. So what does it mean if you're ready to go purchase a second home using your VA loan? Well, for starters, it means you could buy more than one home, right? We already talked about this. You have a home right now. You've been living in it for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe a year, and something's changed. You now want to go buy another home. Basically, that VA loan can stay in place in many cases. A lot of times you get PCS orders. You have to move. Maybe you get a job change. You have to move. Maybe one of your children has to go to a different school. There's lots of reasons why you might want to leave the home that you're currently living in and go find yourself a new primary residence or primary location. So, you might want to keep that home that you've been living in because it's time to upgrade your home to a larger home, but you decide to keep that home. Maybe you've got kids that are just going to be graduating college soon and they want to live there, or you want to turn it into a rental. You don't have to sell it. As long as you can certify that this new home that you're going to buy is going to be your primary residence. And of course, as already mentioned, you have to move into that home within that 60-day time frame. One other thing to note here is that purchasing a second home is going to have an impact on your ability to refinance the home that you're deciding to keep if you ever want to do a VA cash out loan. Frankly, you won't be able to do that. In order to use the VA's cash out loan, you have to be refinancing a property that you currently live in as your primary residence. You can do a streamline on this home that you're planning to rent out to your children or rent out to, the open market. You can do a VA streamline, but you will not be able to do a VA cash out on a mortgage that you're not occupying the property. The reason the VA allows you to do a streamline on a VA mortgage where you're not currently living in that home is because the VA streamline only requires that you certify at one time you did occupy that home as your primary residence. And for those of you watching that understand VA loans, and as we've already talked, you can never buy a home with a VA mortgage unless you lived in it and intended to live in it. So it's very clear, but there's a lot of misunderstanding that, oh my gosh, I no longer live in this home, so I'm just stuck at that interest rate. No, again, summarization, you can streamline a VA mortgage on a home that you're not living in, but you cannot do a cash out. I want to talk now about the process to actually go and get a new mortgage on a new home using your VA loan benefits. While the process is going to be very similar to the one that you followed when you bought the original home that we've been talking about, there will be a couple of additional steps. For starters, your lender, who I hope is always low VA rates, we're here to help you out. We're going to have to calculate, or whatever lender you go to is going to have to calculate something called your secondary entitlement. This calculation will then indicate how big of a loan the VA will be willing to guarantee for you this second time around, which will then dictate the absolute maximum loan amount the lender is able to give you. Okay? Your loan will almost never exceed this amount, even if your finances can support it. That's because lenders usually only want to give VA loans that they know will be backed by the VA if you ended up defaulting on the loan. On the flip side, it's important to know that just because the VA will guarantee a larger loan amount doesn't mean that that's the loan amount you're going to end up getting. If your finances can't support paying back this mortgage, the actual amount approved by your lender might be less than the amount allowed under the VA guarantee. So keep in mind, your entitlement outline serves as a guide to the lender, just one factor of your loan amount. While the calculation for partial entitlement can be pretty complicated, you can see how it's done by checking out the video that we're linking below in the comments. Beyond these two changes, the loan process for an additional VA loan or a second home with a VA loan remains the exact same as the first time around. You're going to go get pre-approved. Then you can start working with a real estate agent and looking for homes. Once you find the home you like, you're going to go make an offer. Once that offer is accepted, denied, or countered, you can decide where to go from there. Once you do have an offer that's been accepted and you start the negotiations, you're going to go under contract. At that point, the VA appraisal will be ordered and you'll complete your entire loan application. Again, no difference than the first time around. It's the exact same process other than that secondary loan entitlement calculation that the lender is going to have to do. Now, at this point, the lender, hopefully again, low VA rates, will need to certify that you're going to actually occupy the home. That's the big key here. Remember, you're keeping the old one. So you're going to probably be asked some additional questions depending on the proximity of this new home that you plan to move into the home and you plan to occupy it as your primary residence. And there's a form. It's called VA Form 26-1802A, where you'll sign your name stating you intend to purchase the property and occupy it as your primary residence. From here, the entire other loan process is absolutely normal and will continue on through processing and then underwriting. Once the loan gets cleared to close, you're going to go into a title company or meet with a real estate attorney or a notary. You're going to go sign all your loan documents, and then your loan will fund and you will be the happy owner of now a new home using, again, your VA mortgage. So you can see it is totally possible to have more than one VA loan at any given time. If you've heard otherwise, we just debunked another myth. You have to simply make sure you're not buying a vacation home on the beach that you're going to live in 2 or 3 weeks out of the year and then rent it. That's not going to work. If you're going to occupy, I guess that's all I needed to put on here today, right? I wasted a lot of whiteboard space. If you're going to occupy the home as your primary residence, you can use your VA loan benefits to buy an additional property. Okay? And believe it or not, you're not even limited to having just 2 VA loans. It's very difficult and not real likely to have more than 2 active VA loans at a time, but depending on your remaining entitlement and how big of a loan you need, we have done deals for veterans up to 3 loans at a time. They bought a house, they moved but kept it. They bought another house with their VA mortgage. they moved but kept it, and they're living in a third VA, all 3 VA loans active at one time. It is possible. So if you're thinking about purchasing an additional home or a new home with your VA home loan benefits, it's pretty simple. Go online to lowvarates.com, chat us, call us, send us an email. You can even comment below this video and we'll get in touch with you that way. We can certainly help you determine how much remaining entitlement you have and how much you can afford to buy another home. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Hopefully you'll be wearing red. That's it.